I am not afraid to demand the life that I want, and I'm also not afraid to go after it. I've always personally believed that I can get anything that I want out of my life, and if I'm not currently in an environment that supports me being that version of myself, then it is time to expose myself to brand new levels so that I can start achieving more and start normalizing the vision that I have in my life. I believe that this is such an important mindset perspective or mindset shift to have in your life when you want to start achieving new levels that you may have never seen anyone around you achieve before. And it doesn't mean that it's impossible or that it's out of reach. We just may not be in an environment that supports that version of ourselves who can actually achieve that. One thing that I really dedicated my 20s to is pushing my comfort zone, expanding myself as a person, and normalizing a brand new baseline for myself. I grew up in a very small-minded environment, and this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to move to a major city in my 20s, because I wanted to expose myself to the life that I dreamt of living. We are the deciding factor in our life of what we are capable of achieving or creating for ourselves. And if we are not exposing ourselves to more, then we are never going to know what is truly possible for us. I wish growing up that I saw someone around me achieving a life that was not the norm, that was not the standard, but I grew up around a lot of people who were not necessarily living a life that I desired to have. But I knew it was out there. I knew there were people out there that were already living it. And one of my main goals was to put myself in an environment that expanded me so much as a person that I started to normalize brand new levels of success for myself. I think that it really limited my mindset when I was growing up and I did not look around me and see one person that had a life that I desired to also be living. I wanted to be around people that helped me grow as a person, and I feel like I never really fit in. I had a different mindset. I just wanted more for myself in general than I was ever exposed to. And I was very, very intentional with the environment that I chose to move to because I wanted to be around people that normalized who I was. And because I didn't really fit in from a young age, it wasn't a bad thing. I knew it was always my advantage in life. I knew it was going to create a different life than I had ever seen before. And it was something that was good for me. It was something that I chose to pursue for myself. I started to create the exact life that I have always dreamt of living by putting myself in an environment where it was already happening, where people were already living out that version of themselves. I never thought anything in life was off limits. I never thought that I wasn't going to be able to achieve something for myself. I just knew that it was going to force me to grow as a person, that it was going to force me to push myself out of my comfort zone and getting away from everything that I had ever known. And one of the biggest things that I experienced when I really exposed myself to more and changed my environment is that I no longer related to who I had always been. And that's exactly what I was craving. I wanted to reinvent myself. I wanted to let go of everything that I'd ever known my entire life, and not in a negative way. I just knew that having more equaled normalizing a different type of mindset in life, a different type of approach, and that all of the skills, habits, or mindset that I picked up from the environment that I grew up in could not come with me because it was no longer serving me. I am not afraid to demand the life that I want. And I'm also not afraid to go after it. And I think that wanting more in your life, dreaming bigger, and seeing a bigger vision just in general for yourself, I have learned from my experience, it is going to require a different version of you. It is going to require you to normalize brand new standards in your life, which means letting go of a lot of things that you've known your entire life, letting go of what is familiar to us. It was only when I was willing to release everything that wasn't serving me anymore, that is when I started to tap into a version of myself that was raising the bar in her life, that started to create new habits, create a new mindset. And I knew that version of me was going to be able to create the life that I wanted. And so I feel like now I'm going through this chapter where I've expanded myself, I've put myself in that environment, and now that I have the tools and that I was willing to expand myself, it is time to implement it in my life. And now that is the phase that I'm going through, is that I've learned so much. I put myself around the people that were living the life that I wanted. I see it every single day. I see people achieving things that I never thought was possible. And now because I see that and people around me are constantly showing me that it's something that I can also be in my life, I have to be willing to implement implement that. I have to be willing to be open-minded and to change my habits in life and to take on a new mindset that is very, very unfamiliar to who I am. But that is the cost of building more in our life. I think that it really does come with a price in order to achieve more and become a better version of ourselves, the one that is the most successful version of ourselves. It is going to require us to not only push us past our own limits in life, but also to realize that comes at the cost of comfort. Comfort is what keeps us in a version of ourselves that believes that there's limits in life when there's really not. It's really just up to us to expose ourselves to more, to normalize new standards, and to push ourselves past what we truly know. I feel like my approach to life has always been insane or crazy to the people around me, but it's just because I'm not willing to settle. I'm not willing to give in to the lifestyle that I truly want. And I know that because there's people out there that are experiencing it, that live it every single day, that have whatever they want. They have built freedom for themselves. Because I know that people out there live that life, then of course I'm going to want it, but it's not just wanting that. I am going to do what it takes to get that in my life. Honestly, I think that approach has intimidated a lot of people around me, but I just want to inspire others. I want people to see what they are capable of not only achieving in their life, but actually being able to go after it, to normalize it for themselves. This is such a powerful approach to your life because it really is a universal law. Exposure will change your life. It will change the way that you not only view yourself, but the way that you approach your life in general. We are not meant to stay comfortable in our life because when we do that, I think that a lot of times when we allow ourselves to just become complacent or settle, we end up having a lot of what ifs or regrets, feeling like we never gave ourselves that permission to want more in our life, but also to chase it, to go after it, to start normalizing it, to start just seeing more in general for ourselves. I know for a fact that I have always been willing to go after something, regardless if I was going to fail at it or not, because I would rather fail than never try, to hold myself from actually having that experience. Experience really is the key to up-leveling your life. It is the key to tapping into a brand new version of yourself, the version of you that achieves new levels, that reaches new heights in their life. That is what it is all about. That is how life is meant to be lived. It is meant to push our comfort zone. It is meant to expand us. It's especially meant for us to constantly overcome our own fears. From my own experience, taking this approach in my life, it doesn't mean that I've always been fearless. It just means that I wasn't willing to compromise in my life. If there was more out there, I was damn sure that I was going to go after it. I'm going to make sure that I was one of those people that was living an extraordinary life. I just love to constantly grow and expand and push myself past everything that I know, because I know that's how I'm always going to get whatever I want out of life. And honestly, I always have. There's a lot of things that I've achieved for myself that are not realistic, that a lot of people feel like they cannot achieve. And because I started to achieve these things for myself, I started to normalize it. I exposed myself to it, and now it just feels like a normal life experience that I just have every single day now. One of the best ways to put this in perspective, right? When I moved into the apartment that I have now, it is a luxury building, and I'm going to be honest, I moved here before I was ever ready or before I felt like it was the right decision to make, because I'm just not one of those people that waits for the right moment or waits to feel perfect to go after something. If there's something that I want, I'm willing to go after it. I'm willing to expand myself. And so I put myself in this apartment. I made it happen. I really made a plan for myself. I was like, how can I make this work? How can I achieve this sooner? Within 6 months of deciding that I wanted this, I moved into this apartment, and I would argue that it's one of the nicest buildings that I could live in Miami. And obviously, even though I didn't feel ready, the second that I moved into this apartment, something changed in my mindset and my approach. It is a game changer to put yourself in luxury environments, to put yourself around people who are constantly raising the bar. I naturally exposed myself to people that are doing more with their life. People that live in my building are very fit. They approach their life in a certain way. They have luxury cars. They have a lot of money. I wanted that for myself. And so I was willing to put myself around it so that I could start figuring out for myself, how can I get there? How can I be them in my own life and be that version of myself that is more successful, that is constantly raising the bar and achieving more. After like a month or two, I started to just realize like, oh, this is just where I live, like this is just the environment. And before I ever moved here, I was like, people there must be making a lot of money. Like I would love to be in that environment. It felt like something that was out of reach until I realized like I can achieve that as well. And developing that mindset put me here. And now because I'm here, I feel like it's just something that's normal for me. Now I live in a luxury environment. It feels like the standard, so it's not something that I'm wowed by every single day. I personally think is a really important aspect of taking new levels in our life is that once we start to achieve new things, it's something that because I was capable of achieving it and really creating that result in my life, it almost boosted my confidence. Now I know that I can get this lifestyle. It's something that's just normal for me. I don't see it as luxury or off limits anymore. It's now something that is the bare minimum for me. And I know there's greater out there. So how can I constantly raise that bar? How can I reach that new level? How can I become the version of myself that attracts that next best thing? Once you start to expose yourself to more and you eventually create those results, it's going to boost your confidence so much that things that you used to see as luxury or impossible or out of reach are now just normal for you. It's not something that you place on a pedestal anymore. That is how you become successful. That's how you achieve whatever you want. You expose yourself to it, you start to normalize new standards, and then you raise the bar. That is literally the cycle of how I've always approached my life, and it's always allowed me to get anything that I've ever wanted. Take this as a sign to be that person that is insane and crazy to the people around you. Just because you are willing to bet on yourself and believe that anything is possible and that you will be able to achieve anything and everything that you want for yourself. I am on a journey of constantly leveling up my life, becoming new versions of myself, reinventing who I am, and not only envisioning my potential, but allowing myself to experience it as well. If that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, then I will see you in the next video.